Hey, what's up, everybody? I got a video today that's gonna blow the boner out of your butthole. So if this video blows the boner out of your butthole, or if you like it just a little bit, remember to like, sub, silly comment, super chat, super like, PayPal, Patreon, whatever, because it helps the fucking channel. So because I can explain these like concepts in so many different ways, I'm going to talk about this fuck neutral in terms of Ryu and Vega. And I've already made a video about this, but I'm going to come at this from another example just to show you, talking about footsies and neutral, right? Because we're talking about, maybe there's always been fuck neutral or whatever in games, right? And let's talk about, what I made the example of in a recent video. I talked about, well, maybe just Sagat, his fireball Dragon Punch trap, that's his neutral. Vega flying across the screen and everything like that, that's his neutral. But guess what? There's also neutral just when two characters collide. A new neutral happens, right? And that's why I've been talking about some of these terms that the fighting game community uses. They use it in such like ambiguous ways. It's like, well, if you're being so ambiguous and vague about it, like anything could be fuck neutral. I mean, what if I want to say that a fireball is fuck neutral? Or do I say the fireball is automatically part of neutral? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's weird that Vega, a character that is like a Spanish ninja, for him to be generally effective, he's flying off the wall and all that kind of shit. That's his version of neutral. Other characters have their version of neutral. We all have different, general ideas of neutral. And then when two characters collide, there can also be a different neutral there. There's so many different, again, so what I'm going to show here is just a different example, and think about that in your head and we'll come back to this at the end. An example of neutral of old Ryu versus Vega and an example of new Ryu versus Vega. Both characters have their own sort of neutral, and then they have a new neutral when they combine, right? So if we were to take a character like old Ryu, obviously his footsies, his priority, whatever, is better. So Vega, he's going to try to slide, boom, he gets beat. He tries to jab, I get beat. Even if he tries to claw, I'm beating his claw stuff. I'm beating his footsie stuff, right? His ground game, his neutral, right? Now this isn't going to work quite as good with new Ryu, but we're going to get to this, right? So look what also happens here that you have to remember about an old school Street Fighter as well, because we have this proximity guard, right? So what's happening here? We're going to show it again. Watch this. We're at this range where I basically beat every move that Vega has with my duck short. Besides, I don't beat stand forward consistently. It's like about half-half with old Ryu. And I can lose to a stand fierce. But a lot of these other things, I'm generally going to win, right? So say if Vega tries to slide to get in, I'm like, oh, I checked him with that. Well, guess what? Vega in old school Street Fighter, when we're thinking about neutral, Vega can't walk backwards to get into a better position where maybe he wants to do a stand forward or something like that. Maybe he's at a range that I want. Do you get what I'm getting? Getting it? In old school Street Fighter, I can't just walk back and forth after I've been checked with a move. I have to basically jump, right? So let's watch that again. I'm losing in the footsie battle, this neutral, if you want to call it neutral, because footsie. So I got to jump back if I want to get out of that. Or I could jump forward, but you get the idea, right? I can't move back to put myself in a new position, right? So we also have this idea of neutral specifically with old Ryu, of my jump strong has a ton of hang time and it has a ton of priority, right? I don't get the reward that I get off of it with new Ryu, but the move lasts like half my jump. It beats wall dive consistently. We've shown it from either side, actually, right? So Vega has to respect this in a different way compared to new Ryu, in a different way in neutral, right? Because look at this. Even if, if I'm randomly throwing out preemptive jump strong, that can also stop him from climbing on a wall, right? Let's look at this here, right? So I'm beating him in footsies. Throw out a random stand jab if he gets far away because I'm going to be able to block that slide in time. From that range, I can block the slide in time if he slides, and the only attack, only, quotation marks, only attack that can hit me is stand fierce. So I can throw out a random stand jab to check it. I can start to walk forward with that, you know what I mean, once I get in range, you know what I mean? So it's like, And Vega, you know what I mean? If he tries to walk back when a move is on the screen, he can't get to a distance that maybe he wants to get without jumping, right? So I'll show another example here. Boom. I can preemptively jump strong because it hits for so long, Vega has to, respect it in a sense more because it can actually hit him standing, whereas that would not hit if new Ryu were to do that, right? So boom, checking again. See if he tried to jump away from it while I'm doing a jump strong, so he's not going to be able to wall dive if I preemptively throw that into the mix. And again, roll with me here. Nothing. This is not saying this is guaranteed. This is sort of a better case scenario for Ryu in the matchup. But so there, we're checking. He tries to jump. I have time to DP him. We're there checking, randomly checking there. Fireballs, right? So now let's get to new Ryu, right? We have an idea of not only the neutral of Vega, the neutral of Ryu, and the neutral when these two characters collide, right? Well, new Ryu, if new Ryu tries to do this, guess what? His idea just of fuck Vega's neutral, again, and this is what we're getting at, when you talk about, there's always been fuck neutral in games. Well, Vega's always been able to do that. These terms are so ambiguous because a character's neutral can change just depending on if they're the old character or the new character, let's say in an old game, right? So guess what? Me playing footsies, Ryu's footsies in neutral, you know what I mean? I can win, but it's not as effective. I don't win the same. So already, although we have two different ideas of neutral, when these two characters are then combined in their neutral, it's not as effective anymore. I can't say fuck Vega's neutral in the same way, right? Just like this, I was trying to jump strong, right? If I start doing preemptive jump strongs, guess what? Vega, that is not really a part of neutral in the matchup of new Ryu. Because new Ryu versus Vega, he doesn't have a preemptive jump strong. His jump strong is literally the counter, right? Whereas old Ryu in the matchup versus Vega, it's also a deterrent, right? Because it lasts for so long that Vega has to try to respect it because technically it could still hit Vega because the hang time is so long, right? Now, of course, we could go deeper into the matchup, and of course there's stuff like no trip guard. So if Vega's, expecting this, he could slide me to a low, whatever, but you get the idea. Just that little aspect, that aspect of neutral does not exist for new Ryu. New Ryu's jump strong is literally just a counter, right? He doesn't have the preemptiveness of it. So anyway, what I was trying to get at there, hopefully to get, we have all these different ideas of, there's always been fuck neutral in this game, fuck neutral in this. And it's like, well, technically, like, why is Vega jumping off the wall, all this kind of stuff? Why can't you just say that's his neutral, right? I mean, you could actually say that. And I don't think it's weird for a character like Vega to be jumping off the wall and slashing you. Now, if you want to say that subjectively, I think that's stupid because, it seems too easy. And it's too powerful. It has too much of an influence on the match considering what you're doing. That is a subjective argument. You know what I mean? I could see why maybe you don't like that. Maybe you don't like throw characters. Maybe you don't like fireballs, dragon punches, right? But I think you can make the argument that, Vega, there's always been fuck neutral. There's always been fuck footsies. And what I said before, maybe Vega jumping off the wall and everything like that is because guess what? Vega's idea of footsies, so to speak, and footsies affecting neutral in that way is not that good. He's not that good of a quotation marks footsie character sometime, right? That's his strength, right? Just like, I used the Justin Wong video. They're talking about, Sagat, you know what I mean? He has fireballs, whatever, right? Maybe Sagat being a strong fireball dragon punch character, maybe you could just say that's his neutral. Maybe you could say, depending on your perspective, that, you know what I mean? Like, well, maybe you don't want to say that. Maybe you want to say fireballs is a fuck neutral move, right? If Vega's jumping off the wall and everything like that is fuck neutral, couldn't you just say that Sagat just throwing fireballs is fuck neutral too? Like, how ambiguous are you being with the term, right? Maybe you could just say that it's both part of the character's neutral, right? Maybe when two characters collide, then they're neutral, depending on how they mix match, they change. Maybe one character has a move that they don't really use as much versus another character, but guess what? Now this move is effective. Now it's part of the neutral of this specific matchup, right? So again, and I make a lot of these videos because, people start applying terms to, originally when I was making these footsie videos and everything like that, because First of all, people were talking about footsies, and they're using footsies in a context that we did not use for footsies in Street Fighter 2. So you can't like use a word when a word has one meaning in another game, excuse me, and then you fast forward 20 years in the future and now footsies means something else, but you apply what quotation marks footsies means now 20 years later, and you apply that same definition back to 20 years ago, that it doesn't count because that's not how we use the word footsies, right? You're giving it a new definition. The word did not mean that back then, right? You know what I mean? That's why I've made a lot of these videos, because you're just talking about the term in a way that we didn't use it. So it doesn't matter. Oh, every game has had fuck neutral moves. Every game has had fuck footsie moves. Whatever. Maybe some characters just they aren't footsie characters. When you say not, you're like, oh, every game is fuck footsies. Every game has had fuck footsies moves. Actually, no, that's not true, because again, we can look at an old school game like Street Fighter 2, and actually Vega, his strengths are jumping off the wall, that kind of, if you want to say bullshit stuff, because his footsies are not good. So it's not really fuck footsies, because guess what? The footsies is still effective in the matchup. It's just that Vega is not a good character in that aspect of the game, right? If you're actually using what we called footsies back then. Now, if you're using footsies now, people are like, oh, footsies is whiff punishing. Oh, it's all of neutral, all this kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. Well, if it's all of neutral, then okay, is a fireball fuck footsie, or is a fireball part of neutral? Like, what are we going for, right? Again, the video game community uses terms such and so ambiguously, so vaguely, just using for whatever they want to use for their particular argument at the time. And it's like, how do you even have an intelligent conversation when you guys just you'll move the goalpost to whatever? Like, oh no, this is what I meant. This is what you got. Motherfuckers aren't even capable of having an intelligent conversation about a fucking video game. Because again, what am I showing here? Just the difference between old school Ryu and new school Ryu. Yeah, new school Ryu, you know what I mean? Of course, you could say that Ryu is, a footsie character, Fireball Dragon Punch Trap, right? Not as strong on the Fireball Dragon Punch Trap as, say, a Sagat, maybe, perhaps. But he's got that little bit of footsies in his game, right? But then you move to new Ryu, his footsies, so to speak, from a traditional aspect, are a little bit weaker, but now he can augment his style. He has overheads, right? He has the super, right? He's a little bit more of a fleshed out character, not as strong in certain aspects. So, but whatever, still, there's a sort of traditional idea of what maybe his neutral is, just like there's a traditional idea of what maybe Vega's neutral is. But just these little differences, then once they clash, then that third neutral, the neutral of character versus character specifically, also becomes different. Do you get what I'm getting at? Anyway, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel. If the video blew the boner out of your butthole, or if it didn't, support the channel, or else I hate you. Maybe. The end.